The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
Happy Halloween, motherfuckers. Welcome to the Steve Austin Show. You're going to listen to part 2 of my conversation with my main man, Bruce Pritchard, a.k.a. Brother Love. Before we get to Brother Love, let's talk about deer season. Deer season is almost here. You need a scope for your gun. If you do, go to bsrscope.com and check out my Meopta 4x12x50 millimeter scope. You can spend a lot more money and get a lot less scope. So check out this scope. It's badass. It's got my name and my skull logo laser etched on this sumbitch. It's a bad motherfucker. Go to bsrscope.com. Hey, check it out. My homebrew adventures continue. I just brewed up my spinoff, my knockoff of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I'm looking forward to bottling that stuff, crack and open a few in a few weeks, and see how it turned out. I'm doing all my research, all my development for the Steve Austin beer, which is going to come down the road, hopefully sometime in 2014. Let me tell you, people, doing the research on this, a.k.a. drinking a shit pile of beer, is one of the sacrifices I'm willing to make to bring you a quality beer. That's right, a beer for the working man. Swig a beer for the working man. Research and development in process at the Steve Austin compound. Hey, fuck that. Let's stop talking about beer. Let's take a little bit of break. Let's let our sponsors roll a little bit of commercial time. Pay for this motherfucker. I want to thank these guys for keeping this show on the air for free. I appreciate you supporting them. When I come back, talking to my main man, wrapping up our conversation, Bruce Pritchard, a.k.a. Brother Love. Don't go nowhere, motherfucker. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur, your first impression means everything. If a customer calls and doesn't like what they hear, they won't tell you. They'll simply move on and leave you in the dust. That's why eVoice is so important. eVoice helps you control the experience every customer has when they call your number. And eVoice starts at just $10 per month, and you can try it free for 1 month when you go to evoice.com/Steve. Or you can check it out on the Steve Austin Show page at podcastone.com. Just click on the eVoice banner. eVoice has toll-free or strategic local numbers, call routing tools, and a dial-by-name directory, so you're never leaving money on the table. And if you can't take a call, they will transcribe the voicemail and email it to you, so you'll always know when to respond and how to prepare. So go to evoice.com/Steve for your free 1-month trial, or click on the eVoice banner on the Steve Austin Show page at podcastone.com. That's evoice.com/Steve, or go to the Steve Austin Show page at podcastone.com and click on the eVoice banner. Yeah, you know, we're back with Bruce Pritchard. Hey, Bruce, now you've been in the business, what, 40 years?
40 years.
Man, let's talk about ribs. And I ain't talking about barbecue ribs. Ladies and germs, a lot of times when guys go down the road, they just want to play a joke on another guy just to kill the time or to get a laugh. Some guys ribbed just kind of playfully. Some guys ribbed unmercifully. Some guys ribbed to piss people off and to strike a nerve, get even, or fuck somebody over. What are some of the classic all-time ribs you've seen in this business, Bruce?
You know what? I'll tell you one that it was kind of a mean rib, but it was, I guess it was funny to those who did it, but it was like, Jim Ross Jim took himself very seriously when he came up to WWE. And at one point, we were on the road. I don't remember where the hell we were, other than the second night we were in Lowell, Massachusetts, and Jim was living in Wilton and everything. And we were all sitting in a Denny's, and JR pulls up, and he's in his own car, in his personal vehicle, and he left the car running with keys in it. Came inside and was talking to us and everything. Well, while he was talking to us, somebody went out and took his keys out of his car. Now they're expecting JR to walk out and go get in his car and realize that, hey, my car's not running anymore. Where are my keys? And to get out and look for them. And sell a little bit and come back in and go, all right, who took my keys? Everybody goes, I didn't do it. So JR leaves and goes out, gets in his car, and he sits there for a minute. And you see him looking around. And next thing you know, the car starts and he pulls away. And everybody's looking at each other and looking at the person that had his keys. It's like, how the hell did he do that? Wait a minute. Here, this guy had snuck out, gone to his car, taken his car keys, and had them on his person, and JR goes out, no-sells it, and drives off.
So what happened? I know he obviously had an extra spare set on him, but what happened with the other keys?
He had an extra spare set on him, okay, in his wallet. So he wasn't about to sell and put the rib over.
No.
So the next day, Lowell, Mass, and again, I did not do it.
Right.
God was my witness on my children's head. I did not do it. I don't know if JR ever believed me at that point, but I did not do it. Jim came to me and says, hey, man, he goes, look, I know some of you guys read me last night and everything, and took my keys, and I had a spare set in my wallet and everything. So, but the keys that they took, it's got my house keys on it. It's got my office keys on it, and all this other shit. And I said, Jim, I do not have your keys. Don't know what to tell you, but I do not have them. And he says, well, do you know who does have them? I said, actually, right now, because when we left, the keys were left on the table, okay? We left. So I really did not know at that point who had them. And I said, no, actually I don't. I said, I really and truly don't, and I would tell you if I did, and I said, I don't. So he, I guess, made some noise about it and everything, and it was kind of shitty because it had his keys on it.
Yeah.
His house key, his office keys, and everything else, man, and he couldn't get into his house that night. So I guess the more that he no-sold it, and then I guess he promoted it, the person that did have his keys, I guess, just never gave his keys back, but that's kind of on the mean side. But it was one of those that you sat there and went, it was a double cross, because it's like, wait a minute, he didn't sell, and now he's driving away. How the fuck did that happen? But he outsmarted himself, because the fact that he double-crossed everybody, I think that pissed him off even more to say, okay, he thinks he's so smart, he'll never see these keys again. And then there was the Jerry Jarrett one, where Jerry Jarrett proclaimed to the locker room that he had never been ribbed in his career.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
So then what happened?
Well, somebody might have found a padlock that padlocked his briefcase to a desk that was bolted to the floor in a high school gym. And they might have used those big chains that you can't get the bolt cutters around. And kind of did a few other things to his bag and things like that. And he called the cops.
Did he?
Yeah, he called the cops. It was funny.
I remember one time we were wrestling. I think I've told this story before. It was Norfolk at the Scope Arena, and we were having a big battle royal because there wasn't enough matches on the card in WCW. And the Steiner brothers decided they was going to strip DDP down. And, of course, when the Steiner brothers decide they're going to do something, they do it because they can. All the guys are in the ring kind of watching this debacle go down in the ring because no one's going to really, interfere with the rib that the Steiners are playing, or you will be ribbed by the Steiners.
There you go.
They stripped his ass down buck naked. Page grabs his gimmick, hauls ass I don't think he worried about throwing himself over the top rope and hauled ass to the back. But that was probably the greatest or funniest rib that I'd seen. And I just had X-Pac on here the other day, and I forgot to get the story out of him. When he super glued one of the Guns cowboy hats onto him, were you there when they did that rib?
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
He put the super glue around the rim of the hat, and it just got on and just, they finally got it off. But yeah, it was kind of ugly. Ripped out his hair and stuff. I want to say it was Bart.
Hey, were you on that flight when Kurt Angle and Vince started wrestling around?
Oh, God, yes.
What happened on that deal? I was up on the front of the plane drinking a bunch of wine, and all of a sudden there was a big to-do back in the middle back of the plane. Cabernet Sauvignon flying everywhere.
Oh, my God.
And didn't Kurt Angle slam Vince or something like that?
Well, no, remember Undertaker woke up.
Well, why would Undertaker waking up have anything to do with the wrestling match?
Well, okay, because they were wrestling, man, and Vince was like trying to single leg Kurt, and Kurt's got Vince hooked, and Taker wakes up, and all he sees is Kurt on top of Vince, and he gets up and he snatches Kurt in front face lock because he just wakes up out of nowhere, hears this commotion. And it's like, oh, shit, now everybody's involved. And Taker just woke up out of a dead sleep, literally, and thinks that Kurt's beating the shit out of Vince.
Oh, Jesus.
And just, he slapped the front face lock on Kurt, and then everything kind of, got toned down a little bit.
Man, those plane trips going back and forth from Europe used to get pretty rough. Hey, we touched on The Undertaker. Let's talk about him for a second because you come, El Paso, you're in Houston. Of course, Taker's a Houston guy. You're in WWE. Taker's being, whatever, he was in WCW. I wrestled with him one time in USWA. I think he was in the business about 2 years ahead of me. And WCW didn't know what the hell to do with him. He goes to WWF, and all of a sudden, man, that dude debuts as The Undertaker, and it was really a lights-out scary gimmick. And you were actually his first manager.
Yep.
Well, how was that? How did that all happen? Did you know Mark prior to his WWF days?
I did not, but I watched him in World Class, and I was always a big fan of Don Jardine, the spoiler.
Right.
And Mark would walk the ropes,
right,
like Don Jardine did. And I thought, wow, that big son of a bitch is an agile guy. And I just became a fan of his, really.
Yeah.
And Paul Heyman called me, and Paul was managing him in WCW. And Paul said, hey, man, he goes, this guy, Mark, hell of a talent, hell of a guy. You guys, he would really do good up there, and he's really unhappy down here. And I said, oh, shit, I watched him from when he broke in Dallas and everything. And I always thought that Don Jardine had trained him, but that wasn't the case, And so we talked a little bit, and I talked to Vince about him, and Vince just looked at him and thought he was a big, tall, red-headed basketball player. And didn't see a whole lot in him. He wanted Sid. He wanted, Sid at the time.
Right. When Vince gets his, mindset on something, that's what he wants.
And so Mark had come up, and they had a show in the Meadowlands, and I just begged Vince. I said, would you please just meet this guy? I said, I don't know him from Adam. I've talked to him. He seems like a real nice guy. I said, but he's a hell of a talent. I mean, you watch his stuff and everything, and he's a big bastard, unique look, and, let's meet him. At least, he fit the size profile.
Right.
Big bastard, right?
Right. And it was a big man territory back then. I mean, it was great to be a big guy. Yeah. It always is in the pro wrestling business. Okay, so this meeting's going to go down.
So, but I had the idea of I wanted a really dark, evil character to manage. And I was like, hey, put him with me. Because I didn't know if he could talk or not. He always had a manager.
Right.
And I said, and Heyman had even said, he goes, I don't know how his promos are or anything like that. I said, oh, perfect, man. Give me somebody that can't talk.
Yeah.
So I pitched this really dark character to be the black to my white. But long story short, man, Vince met him, and as you know, Mark, he's just a class guy and a good guy, and I think Vince saw that right away and loved the idea and came up with Undertaker, and shit, the rest is history, man.
So who came up with the Undertaker gimmick?
I want to say that was probably Vince, because I was like, I wanted this black. I came up with the name Kane.
Right.
Because it was the first man to ever commit murder, like Cain and Abel.
Right.
And so I'd come up with the name Kane, and then Vince was like, oh, goddamn, we're going to make him look like an old-time Undertaker, and we'll call him Kane the Undertaker. Strong name. And we eventually just dropped Kane and went with the Undertaker, man. But he was one of those guys, when he walked out, he's another one.
Oh, yeah.
When he's out there, he's Undertaker.
Yeah.
Mark don't exist. But when he walked out that first time, God, it was electric.
Dude, when he first started, I mean, it was really a scary gimmick. And, of course, everybody was selling like a sumbitch for him. But you go back and you get on YouTube and you watch those kids' faces on those first few rows, they're horrified. They're scared shitless for a shoot.
Hell yeah. Oh, okay. The true story. You talk about that for a shoot, man. Me and Mark, we're leaving Chattanooga. We're going to drive to Atlanta, all right? So we get done, don't have time to take a shower or anything, so we take a hoarder's bath, just kind of wash our faces, and as quick as we can, we run out into the car. Mark's driving. So his face is like just pale white. And he's still got like the dark circles under his eyes and everything. We wore the purple makeup and shit.
Yeah.
I've got my face, it's like red, but I've done the best I can to clean it off. I'm in a sweatshirt and everything, and he's got his coat on, his black overcoat. We run out of the arena, and we're like hauling ass through Chattanooga. Well, we get lost, and we're in a part of town that we really
don't belong in.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so we pull into this gas station and all, and Mark's got his seat way back, okay, because he's a big, tall son of a bitch. So he's got his seat back, and it's leaned all the way back. And so he pulls up, and I roll the window down. I go, hey, man, excuse me, can you tell us how to get to whatever, this highway we're heading to Atlanta? And so this guy comes walking over to the car, and he's sauntering real slow, and he's grabbing his crotchal area and everything. And he's like, well, man, what you going to do for me? And, hey, man, what y'all got in there? And how about y'all maybe? And he stops in his tracks mid-sentence. Mark literally does the Undertaker sit-up.
Yeah.
And turns and looks at this guy, and the guy started backpedaling and almost fell down. He goes, man, what the fuck is that? That dude looks like he just killed somebody. Hey, no, listen, man, y'all need to go right down here. You're going to go down about 2 blocks. You're going to turn right. You're going to go up to the next light. You're going to turn left. That's going to put you right on the highway, man. Y'all get the fuck out of here. True story. And it was so goddamn funny because he had seen a ghost.
Yeah.
That man did the sit-up and snapped the head. And looked at him and had that white face and those dark-ass eyes. He thought, oh, my God, this son of a bitch, these motherfuckers just killed somebody, and now they're just trying to get out of the hood.
Man, I can't remember if I told this story in a long time or not. I've told it before, but one time I just came into WWF. I might have still been a ringmaster. Maybe I was Stone Cold. And maybe I was Stone Cold. Some town, don't remember what it was. The house was mediocre. The business was what it was. And I was going to work with Taker. And, of course, I knew Mark a little bit. I mean, a tiny bit from USWA days. And so, anyway, we're going to work. He's the Undertaker. All of a sudden, I'm already in the ring. The lights go down. The lighters come up. Bong, that music hits. And here comes Undertaker in slow motion. Just doing that fucking slow walk he always did. So, before the match, I'm always kind of thinking about some stuff that I might want to do. A fishbone of events. Yeah, man, big guy. Maybe I'll take him down, work his leg. Man, all of a sudden, here comes the Undertaker. He's getting closer and closer. His entrance was so overwhelming, I forgot every goddamn thing I wanted to do with Mark in that match. That's a shoot. I didn't know whether to shit or wind my watch. The lights come on, he takes his shit off, they ring the bell, and we had a modified clusterfuck right then and there. But it was great, man, watching him come out, and it's like, bong. It was fucking strange. It was, I hate to use the word surreal, it was surreal.
Yeah, it was. It was just downright spooky. And he never broke character.
One time I made him break character. One time we was over on Kuwait, and man, it was like a soul show. We went over there. We was in the same building like 5 nights in a row. One of those rich cats had bought the shows. We flew over there, bust us in. The houses were, it was a bought show. The houses were about, a third to a half full, and we did a battle royal or something like that. We spilled out on the floor, and I'd been selling on the apron. I had a little bit of heat, going as Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the Undertaker picked me up. He straightened my head up out. We were both standing outside the ring. And he looked at me with that damn look, and I just popped. For some reason, I started laughing. And he laughed too for about a cunt hair of a second, and then went right back into character, and he flipped his hair back. He had that long hair, and he flipped it over his face so he couldn't see him laughing. But I actually busted The Undertaker out of character one time, but I think it's the only time in the existence of that character that that's happened.
Those are few and far between, 'cause that some bitch don't break.
Hey, but that's an important thing you said, back then when you were Brother Love. And when hey, man, you're not Bruce anymore, you're Brother Love. Taker, when that's time to go, he's Undertaker. Stone Cold, hey, man, Steve Austin, that nice friendly cat, don't exist. Yep. If you had to look at what's going on in the landscape of today, whether it's WWE, TNA, whatever, what do you say to some of these people who haven't quite been able to put a finger on or define a character and come up with something, or really to totally commit to a character?
The best thing, though, Steve, is you look at the best characters. The best characters are the guys that are just an extension of who they really are. You take you, for example, and I always like to take, like, you, Rock, Mick, because a lot of people have taken credit for, wasn't for me, there wouldn't be a Stone Cold. Wasn't for me, there wouldn't be a Rock. Wasn't for me, there wouldn't be a Mick Foley and all this shit. If it wasn't for Steve Williams, there wouldn't be a Stone Cold. Okay, because you believed it, you became Stone Cold Steve Austin. You made it work. You delivered the lines in the way that you felt. You came up and lived that gimmick. The Rock became The Rock. He had to go out there, he worked it, he delivered it, he made it work. And all the guys, the successes, the guys that really make it to the top are only extensions of who they truly are. And that, when they believe it, the audience believes it. It's not a stretch anymore for the audience to go, okay, this guy's playing a clown, or he's playing a Pied Piper or something like that, and it's not really, okay, he's playing his part. He does a good job,
right,
but he doesn't believe it.
That's the thing about it. When Matt Bourne did Doink the Clown,
the best.
Hey, man, that could have been a real shitty gimmick for the wrong cat.
Yep.
Matt Bourne worked that it was a 10 out of a 10. You couldn't have done it no better than Matt did it.
Yep. You know whose idea that was?
Whose?
Mike Hegstrand, Hawk.
Really?
Road Warrior Hawk.
Hawk came up with the Doink gimmick?
He came up with the miserable clown gimmick for Matt Bourne. Sitting in the dressing room in, I believe it was in Toronto, or, no, what's the town outside of Hamilton?
Hamilton.
Okay.
Nobody likes to work Hamilton.
And Matt was coming through, and Matt's sitting in the back, and he's got, he always had like that little pot-belly gut.
Yeah.
And so Matt's sitting there, he got his gut hanging out, and he's smoking a cigarette. His hair's all down. He's just sweaty and miserable and shit.
And that's the way Matt was anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mike Hegstrand looks over and goes, hey, Pritchard, Krusty the Clown. And I'm looking at him, oh my God, you're right. And he says, no, I'm serious. He's fucking Krusty the Clown. And I'm like, we're looking at him, and he looked like Krusty the Clown. So fucking Hegstrand goes into Vince and goes, Vince, come here. And he's pointing at him and goes, Krusty the Clown. And Vince didn't know who Krusty the Clown was.
Who's Krusty the Clown?
Oh, yeah, oh my God, Krusty. As we're explaining, the characteristics of Krusty the Clown and all this shit, and then there was a movie out, The Evil Clowns from Outer Space, or something like that. And I said, he's an evil clown. And that's how he became the evil clown, man. Mike Hegstrand, just looking at him going, he's Krusty the Clown.
Man, that was a great gimmick. I didn't know that. It was funny because one time, back in my day, the Road Warriors. I think might have been Hawk specifically, who said, you know what, you need to come up with your own belt. You don't need a championship belt. You need the Stone Cold belt. That's why we came out with that damn Skull and Rattlesnake belt. That was another Hegstrand original idea.
Hey, Mike always thought, and that was a good thing about Mike. Mike always had ideas for other guys.
Yeah. Man, he was a great guy. I miss that guy. All right, Bruce, let me stop you right there because we got to take a pause for the calls. I'm going to be back after a few words from my sponsors.
Steve Austin, Unleashed.
Yeah, that's right. I got Bruce Pritchard, a.k.a. Brother Love, on the other end of the line. Hey, you mentioned Three Cats a while ago. You mentioned my name, too. We're not going to talk about me. Let's talk about the Attitude Era. As long as you've been around, Bruce, this is my take on this, because you always hear people talk about the Attitude Era, and it's kind of defined in a 10-year period. Professional wrestlers have always had attitude. So why is the Attitude Era the Attitude Era?
Because it took the restraints off. I mean, for so long, we thought we had to be something else. We thought we had to be politically correct, even though that wasn't a term then. We had to be socially acceptable. There were things you just didn't do. It was Vince viewed himself only as a TV commentator. He viewed himself as a play-by-play guy. He didn't think that people would ever accept him as the owner of the company or as a character other than a play-by-play guy. And he never wanted to be a character. You remember how we used to fight to get him to do stuff?
Yeah, but talk about the evolution of the Vince McMahon character, because we were talking about this the other day on the phone.
Yeah, it was driving down the road, going to Madison Square Garden, Pat Patterson driving, me in the front seat.
And to hold on, Bruce, before you go into the story, back in the day, to the listeners of the show that don't know, Vince McMahon used to be the commentator. What would it be, play-by-play or color?
He was the play-by-play guy.
Play-by-play guy, and I loved his announce style. Sometimes, as you did your impersonations the other day, sometimes it can be way over the top, but, he always knew the bottom line. He knew the angle. He knew where everything was going. I really loved his style. Give me one.
Never called a hold.
Yeah, no.
Oh, my. What a maneuver. And then from there, oh, look at that. Oh, Jesse. No, Jesse, come on.
It was great. I loved it.
He was so hokey. But, I mean, that's how he viewed himself, is that guy. And we're driving down the road, and it's Jerry Jarrett and Vince in the back seat. And Jerry Jarrett used to promote in Nashville and the Memphis territory.
USWA.
Probably one of the most despised people, business has ever known. And I started laughing, and Vince was like, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Well, just find it funny that Pat and I are riding in the car with probably the two most hated motherfuckers this business has ever known."
Meaning Vince and Jerry Jarrett.
Vince and Jarrett.
Yeah.
Well, Vince just thought that was the funniest thing. He's laughing about it and everything. And
Vince doesn't give a shit about nothing.
Nobody hates me. I don't know of one person. I said, well, hell, Jerry, just look at a roster for anybody who's ever worked for you. There's the list. But it was, Vince didn't really want to be a character. His job and how he saw it was to get talent over. And that was the extent of it. He didn't think that people cared about the owner. But as the audience got more sophisticated, and the audience, they knew that Vince was the boss, and they started, when Vince, we don't know what President Jack Tunney's going to do with this. It's like, fuck you, Vince, you're the boss. Of course you know. You're telling him what to do. So it was a natural transition. And then with Montreal, when, who screwed Brett, he was made. He was made. Then comes along this, bald-headed rattlesnake that didn't give a shit about anybody and defied authority, that up until that point, your baby face was red, white, and blue, milk toast. By God, you want your son to grow up to be him, and you want your daughter to grow up to marry him. All of a sudden, here's this hero who says, fuck you, literally and figuratively, to the boss that everybody wants to do, but nobody has the balls to do. So all of a sudden they can live vicariously through this hero who is the anti-hero. So it was just a complete different change in philosophy. You know, you had Mankind, who was, for all intents and purposes, this horrible, evil creation that became this lovable character that everybody got behind.
Right.
And you want to know how and when I knew that The Rock was getting over?
When?
When this guy named Stone Cold came up to me and says, hey, goddamn, you know, a guy goes out here, raises an eyebrow, says a couple cute little rhymes and shit, you know, that don't mean he's going to get over. Because when he got on your radar, enough to say something about it, when the boys started talking about it, and the boys started, like, taking note of shit, then you knew they were getting over. I'll never forget it. I looked at and I was like going, all right, it's working. It's working.
Yep.
But it was, you know, that Attitude Era, it was different than anything that had been done up until that point. And it was so believable. And it was believable because you made it believable. It was believable because you had workers like Triple H and fucking Mick and Rock that went out and could go every night. That was the difference, man. Our guys worked. Our guys went out every night and left it in the ring.
Hey, you brought up the Montreal screw job. What was your take on that whole shenanigan?
You know, my take on it was...
How much can you speak on that in depth?
Well, I mean, my take on I didn't know about it till it happened. I really didn't.
Straight up. For a shoot.
For a shoot, yeah, I didn't know about it till it happened.
Oh.
Did not know.
So, okay, so there you are. You're on the inside. The gig goes down. Brett taps out. Shawn wins. What were you thinking?
Well, I was at the gorilla position, and Owen and Bulldog were in front of me. They were getting ready to go out and do a run-in.
Now, were they there because they were going to do a run-in, or they smelled a rat?
Yeah, they were going to do a run-in.
Okay.
We were waiting for the cue for them to go do a run-in.
Okay.
Hunter in China had already gone out.
So, what happened?
And they were sitting there, and the bell rang, and I'm, like, looking, because it wasn't what I thought was going to happen. And I'm like, who the hell rang, who rang the bell? And they come back, and we're looking, and, you know, and Shawn rolls out, and he's got the belt, and Bulldog, they just fucked Brett. Owen, they just fucked Brett. And what the fuck do we do? I said, well, I guess go out there. I don't know. And so, you know, they went out there and shit, and it was a little surreal. Look, I think it was the right thing to do because Brett really didn't give us much choice. You know, I know Brett believes in his stance, but at the end of the day, the business is work. You win them in the ring, you lose them in the ring, and if he wasn't willing to do that, then they had to do whatever they had to do to get it done.
Right.
And I applaud Vince for having the balls to do it. I applaud Shawn for having the balls to do it. That ain't an easy, man. That's not an easy spot to be in.
No, it's a tough spot to be in.
And that's what people, you know, forget sometimes. It's like, okay, well, Shawn, you little bastard for doing that. It's like, well, you know what, man? What about what kind of nuts it takes to actually go do that, and they have to come back in the locker room and face everybody. And it was just, you know, it was necessary. It was an unfortunate deal, but it was a necessary thing to do, I think, for the business at the time. It didn't really leave us any choice. But that was the beginning. You know, that was the beginning of the Mr. McMahon character. That was the beginning of painting Vince in a different position, you know. All of a sudden now he stopped being play-by-play guy, and now he's coming out more as the owner and the boss and the guy that calls the shots.
What were you thinking when the John Stossel thing went down with Dr. D? I always like to get different guys' takes on this.
Oh, when I saw it, I thought it was great. from my vantage point, I thought it was great. He was laughing at the business.
Yeah.
John Stossel was.
Yeah.
And when, you know, David Schultz did what you know, everybody wanted to do. Cost him a lot of money, but I thought that at the time, guys used to love to do that smart ass, you know, so, hey,
yeah.
Tell me, is it fake? You know, fuck you. Is this fake? And see what happens. But yeah, I enjoyed it from my vantage point.
It was interesting. What did you think when Vince finally decided to go the vein of sports entertainment? Hey, we're WWE, we're sports entertainment, we're not really real Basically, we came out of the closet, so to speak, and said, hey, we'll work to get away from all the athletic commissions and paying all that bullshit money.
Right, but also, I mean, you're just being honest with your audience.
Oh, yeah, I get that, but where was your head at the time we were doing it? Because you're old school. You come up with Bosch.
Oh, man, there was a part of me that hated it.
Yeah.
But then there was also the part of me that it made it easy. It made it easier to do what we do.
I agree.
Because now it's like, okay, I always hate the word fake, because what we do in the ring is not fake. It hurts like hell. It's real. It may be choreographed. It may be, I mean, it's not even really choreographed. You got the greatest athletes in the world out there dancing and doing these great athletic things that most people can't do, even great athletes.
And on top of that, tell a story.
Yes. So
then mix in some
salt in a way that most people can't. So fake always bothered me.
Right.
Because it's not fake. It's very real in many ways.
I thought it gave, it was easier to do many more angles or push the envelope without insulting your fan base's intelligence.
Yes.
That's what I liked about it.
And it just opened the door, and like I said, it made it just that much easier for people to accept what we were putting out there.
Hey, what's the hottest angle you can remember?
Wow. Back in the old days, Gino Hernandez and Jose Lothario, Jose Lothario was the Mexican just legend in Houston, Texas, man. Big, red-hot baby face. And Gino Hernandez was the up-and-comer that Jose had trained and brought along. And Gino turned on him. Just started having a shitty attitude and then turned on his mentor. Broke his arm, shaved his head. I mean, that was the hottest from the old days. But, you move forward. You go in the 80s. Savage Hogan was great shit.
Right.
That was really good stuff because there was a sense of reality to it. There was always a professional jealousy there, and that worked. It felt real.
Right.
Austin McMahon.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other one, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong. Remember the early days, man, of Triple H and The Rock when Hunter used to go out there with DX and they would stand in the ring and Rock would stand up on the stage and they would have their, quote, scripts, and Hunter would go off script and just hit the digs with Rock, and Rock would stand there and he would, by golly, I'm going to hit my script type thing, and then come back and go, what the fuck? And I remember saying the same thing to you at one point. It was like, you know what? We're live. I mean, we can't edit it. But he knows we're live. He's going to come back. He's going to take his ass chewing from Vince. You'll say, hey, no, I stayed on script. I did what I was told. But you look like a dick doing it because he one-upped you. And then Rock went out there with that attitude of, okay, you want to play? Let's play. And it became real because there was the real. They were both fighting for the same spot.
Right.
And it came across in their promos. It came across in their matches because they always wanted to one-up the other one.
You still watch the show currently?
Yeah, I do. I admittedly, I fast-forward through it a lot now. But I'm a fan, man. I love wrestling. So, it's kind of hard to just go cold turkey. There was a point where I didn't watch it for like a year and then got back in it and was shocked a little bit. But no, I still watch it, yeah. I just love wrestling. I mean, I like to watch shit.
Well, I mean, I say the same thing, but when you were down at TNA, how long were you there for in total?
Let's see, October 2010 till July 2013.
Dude, what happened?
Just, it was one of those deals where we reached a point, they gave me an ultimatum, and I made my choice. I couldn't do what they were asking me to do. And it was like, either do what they were asking me to do or kind of move on. So I kind of moved on.
Well, what was the atmosphere as far as protocol or how to go about, running the TV show versus compared to WWE over there?
Night and day. It's completely different because in TNA, it was a lot more relaxed atmosphere. The inmates kind of ran the asylum a little bit, no pun intended. And you had a lot of young talent that had never been produced before. And they're going off in directions that they feel may be good, but there's no one either pulling them back or pushing them out, one way or the other, giving them feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. So you had a lot of guys that came back that thought everything they were doing all along was just the greatest thing in the world. And all of a sudden, you know, it's when I came in there, I, as you know, I can be a little vocal. You know, I started trying to produce the guys and change some of it and give them immediate feedback as soon as they came back, and just tried to help them.